Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. This week, we've got a big week ahead of us. We have 4 brand new films to cover, including Queen Latifah and Ludacris are on the highway to hell in the Netflix original movie, End of the Road. One of the biggest surprises of the year is now in theaters, and that is the horror film Barbarian. And we will also be bringing back one of our favorite young critics to help review 2 brand new family films that you can stream now, including the Disney Plus live-action remake of Pinocchio and the internet phenomenon's first movie, Marcel the Shell, with shoes on. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
The Movie Wire podcast.
There it is.
You need people like me.
The podcast for hot and trending movies.
The Wire.
In town for a job interview, Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, arrives at her Airbnb at night only to find that her rental has been mistakenly double booked and a strange man is already staying there. Against her better judgment, Tess decides to stay the night with this mysterious man, but she makes an awful discovery that will send her through a cycle of what we have only seen in our nightmares.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
This is 476 Barbary, right?
Yeah, I'm renting this place.
No, I booked it a month ago.
Are you sure you have the right place?
Yeah. What am I supposed to do?
Why don't you come inside and we'll call these idiots. Why don't you just crash here?
Oh, no.
I don't know if you got a great look at this neighborhood, but I don't think you should be out there by yourself. It's dry and there's a lock on the door. By the way, I'm Keith.
Tess.
You take the bedroom and I'll sleep out here on the couch.
God. Keith!
This process might seem overwhelming, but with a little practice, it can soon become a pleasurable experience. This is perfectly natural.
This is a movie I thought I had pegged from the trailers. I thought I knew the twist. I thought I knew the step-by-step what the villain was going to do. And I think I rushed to judgment. Still traumatized from the horrible home invasion movie from last week, Who Invited Them? So this one I wasn't going into with a good taste in my mouth, but this movie within the first 23 minutes had me intrigued for one main reason. There are no dumb decisions, and it knows how to capture an audience right from the get-go with using characters. And before I get into it, I want to start by saying thank you to writer-director Zach Kreger. This is a film that was written with honoring the genre and delivering clever writing to send the audience on a psychological balance of being uncomfortable and thrill. Barbarian is a pure definition of a horror movie that attacks your senses from every direction. From the use of camera angles to the use of music in the beginning, and I'll have to admit, I didn't give Kreger enough credit and I thought he would follow the same systematic horror formula by making us track his camera movements, giving away too much and giving away too many clues. The main achievement is that every sound, every shot, every piece of lighting is utilized to its full effect of tension. What really stands out is the use of sound, music, and editing, where the sounds and music are not overused. We don't get this long, orchestrated, ongoing crescendos that lead to jump scares. We get little hints of music that is used sparingly, not necessarily to build tension to lead to something but rather to ensure that the audience pays attention to the character's actions. It's almost like watching a movie that your kids have seen but you haven't yet, and they've turned around to make sure you're watching one of their favorite parts of the movie. Now, Cregger does something brilliant in this. He cleverly distracts the distraction. And he does this by using natural instinct of human nature of worry and concern. Or he puts in the what if or should I. The film utilizes current situations that doesn't put the audience in a why would you do that scenario and makes the situations believable. One of my favorite things about this horror movie is that the filmmakers take us on a journey with the characters like a tour guide rather than just telling us a scary story. There are two scenes that give a great example of this, which is showing our main character Tess arrive at the house to explore her outside surroundings of the neighborhood, which is in complete darkness and reveals nothing. Fast forward to the daytime and we witness for the first time what she is seeing, and we are reacting for the first time with her. This is one of my favorite shots of the film. It puts the character in a horror situation, whether it's light or dark, and it even doubles down and reinvents the horror formula of seclusion. The film's pacing is a unique strategy. It almost acts like two separate movies. I found myself looking at the time about an hour in, worried and disappointed that the movie was almost over. I wanted more. To my surprise, the movie was just getting warmed up, and it took what made the first half successful and kept to that formula, but doubled down with less to work with, yet still making it thrilling. This is Zach Cregger's first major motion picture, and the amount of skill that went into the technical aspects of this movie shows a level of confidence in his filmmaking ability, but also a humble one. He understands that less is more in a horror film and using the environment appropriately to help support the suspense. The little details will have you appreciate the way Cregger makes his films. He takes everything that we have learned by watching the generic systematic horror movies and uses this to his advantage. Now, while watching, I found myself trying to play a gotcha with Cregger, and what I mean by that is systematic horror movies, we get that same thrill where we focus a little bit on the character, and then the background's blurred out, and we have something jump out, or some creepy shadows, or just something runs by the camera. And he moves the camera where he wants us to look, only for him to pull the fast one on us and say gotcha to the audience. And this is a nod to our own habits of thinking we know what's going to happen based on the years and years of watching the normal formula of tension growing from generic horror films. The movie's story cleverly supports our characters by using the environment, weather, and the state of the neighborhood. Last week on the show, I reviewed The Awful Who Invited Them, a film that tried to be more clever than what it was about strangers being in a house together. The main issue I had with that film is that it treated the audience like we're complete morons. It gave too much away. It used dumbfounded dialogue that told the audience what to think and treated each gaslighting line by a horribly acted cast as a double dog dare. Cregger knows his audience, and he knows his talent skill sets when he's on set. Georgina Campbell, who plays Tess, and Bill Skarsgard, who played Pennywise in It, plays Keith. Both characters have mysterious backgrounds, and they play off of each other extremely well. We usually have the male as a dominant protagonist, but what Cregger does here is subtle hints to keep the audience guessing. During the final act, Cregger does slip up a bit when it comes to unnecessary shots that go for the gross factor. And honestly, I don't know if it was necessary or not. I found the one scene that I'm referring to very memorable, but that's the problem. The gross out factor overshadowed the intelligent, creative, and unique work that Cregger put into this film. And instead of talking about the little things that added up to make this film great, I fear more people will talk about the gross out scenes more than the outstanding filmmaking when walking out of the theater. Barbarian is a rare breed of horror movie that we don't see that often. It tries to appease a majority of horror fans, gore seekers, monster fans, psychological thrill lovers to thrill seekers. And for the most part, it achieves something for all horror fans. It dips its toes into a little bit of everything we find in horror films, but with one difference. It does it with style, creativity, and smart writing. Barbarian is barbaric and will, to an extent, be one of those films that might ruin your day, and that's how you can tell the filmmakers did what they sought out to do, which is make an emotionally troubling thrill ride that gets into your head. This is one of the best horror movies of the last couple of years. I'm giving Barbarian 3.5 stars. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews for movies that just hit streaming and are available to rent or buy now, including Thor, Love and Thunder, Idris Elba in Beast, Where the Crawdads Sing, Top Gun Maverick, the BJ Novak film Vengeance, and available to just rent on streaming platforms is Nope and 3,000 Years of Longing. You can find all those reviews on my previous episodes, and just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow or subscribe and leave me a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MovieWireShow. Also, those of you listening in Seattle, coming up this Saturday is the Snohomish Film Festival. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, I'll put the link in this episode's description. Make sure you check that out. They have some incredible talent this year. Don't miss it. And finally, let's now hear from some of my favorite guys over there at Decayin With The Boys.
Welcome back to the Jojatorium.
Whoa, Matt, this isn't an episode, it's a trailer.
Well, what the hell's a trailer, Adam?
It's where we tell people what they can expect from our podcast, Decayin With The Boys.
Well, they can expect to hear us talk shop on pro wrestling, craft beer, horror movies, and pop culture, like Britney Spears' creepy father and stuff like that.
We've literally never talked about Britney, but we do take our shots at everything else he said.
Well, then I guess I can also tell them they can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and Anchor FM.
And don't forget to find us on all social media at Decayin WTB.
Cheers.
Queen Latifah and Ludacris star in this Netflix original movie that is streaming now. When Brenda, played by Queen Latifah, falls on tough times, she is forced to sell her home and take a cross-country road trip with her kids and her brother Reggie, played by Ludacris. But the trip becomes the highway to hell for the family, where they find themselves fighting for their lives when they become targets of a mysterious killer.
Nobody has said a word in 3.5 hours.
Do any black people live in Houston, or will it just be us?
What? Oh, how about Destiny's Child?
Who's that?
Scarface. Scarface, see?
Who are those people?
You need to study some hip-hop history.
Brenda, you my big sister. Oh, this is some serious Area 51 shit out here.
Mom, are we homeless people?
As long as we're together, none of us are ever homeless. Everybody just get some sleep. We got a long day ahead of us on the road tomorrow.
Somebody throwing a party or something?
No. This sounds like a fight.
Look at me, sir. Look at me. Come on. Hang on.
Hey. Where's the folks staying next door? Hey. There's a fortune in missing drug money. There's a whole world of danger.
What did you do, Reggie?
This money could save our lives.
It can end our lives. It's a different world out here.
You have a safe journey.
I want my money, Brenda.
How do you know my name?
Mom, what's wrong?
This is my game. You have something of mine. Now I have something of yours.
Help! I need my son back.
It's us or them.
Nobody misses. That's family.
New to stream on Netflix comes a new thriller that, after a slump of just generic movies coming out of Netflix this last year, I really had high hopes for this one, which has a talented cast with Queen Latifah, Beau Bridges, Ludacris, Frances Lee McCain, who you might remember as Billy's mom from Gremlins, and one of the writers, David Lowery, who is responsible for a couple memorable films from the 80s, including Dreamscape, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, and a handful of films most of us have seen in the 90s, such as Money Train, Passenger 57, and The Three Musketeers. Laurie has had a decent resume of some memorable movies, even though some might not be very good, but memorable all the least. Laurie is teamed up with newcomer and writer for a major release, Christopher J. Moore, whose work prior was a few sitcom episodes. Now, one would think that Laurie's more seasoned film resume, we would get more of his style in this movie, but is quite the opposite. Streaming platforms for their original movies have been on a kick more and more to have more inexperienced writers, or ones that have mainly only focused on writing short sitcoms or TV shows. You can always tell due to the fact as a viewer we can feel the pacing and the transitions are way out of whack, and the characters are written emotionless. We can definitely feel the TV show writing in this film. The only thing that keeps this movie going and watchable is the cast. Even though Queen Latifah has no good material to work with in this movie, it's her national screen presence, watchability, and likability that makes her eyes glued on her. I felt it more interesting to watch Latifah. She tries to manage what we realize later in the movie. The writing is very amateurish. It's like watching a magic show. We know the trick, we know it's cheesy, but we are entertained by watching the magician to do his own thing anyway. But this material doesn't support her emotion, period. It doesn't give any emotion to work with in the script. Latifah doesn't seem to find the material to help support the character's emotion. And you can tell Latifah doesn't seem to find any material to help support the character's emotional state, and doesn't seem to have the idea of motivation of the character. And our director, Millicent Shelton, doesn't seem to notice this while shooting. And he doesn't pull an audible and try something else with the emotional reaction from our characters. All of our characters seem to have the same one reaction during the film, and that is shock. I feel Shelton had one idea for motivation of these characters. I can just picture the direction of motivation. Shelton goes to Ludacris and says, "Okay, pretend you're walking into a surprise party you already knew about and act overly shocked." Then Shelton goes to Latifah. "Okay, Latifah, in this scene, you're going to pretend you're walking into a surprise party and you already knew about it. Look overly shocked." And now Shelton goes to Beau Bridges. "Okay, Beau, in this scene, you're going to pretend like you're walking into a surprise party and you already knew about it." Beau responds with, "I'm f***ing Beau Bridges and I'm incapable of looking shocked." Each scene in the film has no sense of danger or fear, and it doesn't help that even though the chemistry between Latifah and Ludacris are good, all of the talent on screen during of which should have been some tense moments, we don't smell fear on them. There's no sense of fear. That makes it hard when you're making a thriller to have no characters believe that they are in danger. There is even a fight scene in the film that I had to re-watch. Not due to the fact that it was incredible, but incredibly bad. Believe me, you will know this scene when you see it. It is one of the worst choreographed fights I've seen in a long time. The only character I felt was written right and matches his character was Ludacris. I know I have seen him in smaller roles before, but he is noticeably good in this movie. Just not the writing. Ludacris takes a mellow approach to be the cool uncle to his nieces and the brother that means well but always messes up. He is believable, and with how low-key and perfectly pitched on delivering his lines are, I think Ludacris has found his forte on what kind of characters and movies he would excel at. The talent isn't the only thing that looks good on screen. Ed Wu, who is the cinematographer, does a fantastic job with capturing a lot of the scenic views and knowing where to put the camera at the right time to compensate for the lack of emotion from our characters. He makes it visually appealing and ensures that at least we have an engaging visual to keep our eyes on screen. Ed Wu, who did a lesser-known film, Paper Tiger from 2020, which was a much better film than this. That film, which had more to work with when it comes to character depth, let Wu utilize his talents on a character focus. Here, he uses it in the same way to try to salvage the film. You can tell his passion went into this movie, and if not without him and the likable talents on screen, this film would have been a dumpster fire. And I'm actually sure that Wu could have even made that look good. If it wasn't for the likability of our cast, the brilliant cinematography, and the great scenic settings, End of the Road would have been shut off 30 minutes into the film. The pacing acts like that of a sitcom, which does keep the film moving along and will keep your attention for the most part. It's sad that a movie has so many things go right with it that the direction and the writing can make a film go south so very quickly. End of the Road is a one-and-done watch to kill some time while you're browsing through streaming trying to figure out something to watch that have some background noise. And there isn't any really dull moments thanks to our talented cast delivery, but I think the cast should have seen the title of the script as a warning sign and steered clear of this one. End of the Road should have been the end of the road as soon as the script was read. I'm giving End of the Road 2 stars. So hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. Brooklyn, it's your time to shine.
This is Brooklyn on the Movie Wire.
The podcast you've been waiting for. The Movie Wire is your show. The place to find what you're looking for. Movie lovers, the time has come. The Movie Wire.
The short film from 2010 went on to spark 2 short film sequels, both in 2014. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is an adorable 1-inch tall shell who has a close relationship with his grandmother, Connie. Yes, she is a shell too. They are both once part of a sprawling community of shells. Now they live alone as the sole survivors of a mysterious tragedy. However, when a documentary filmmaker discovers them, the short film he posts online brings Marcel millions of passionate fans, as well as dangers and a new hope of finding his long-lost family.
Alright, so I'm making like a little documentary.
Oh, it's like a movie, but nobody has any lines and nobody even knows what it is while they're making it. No?
Tell me about what's life like.
It's pretty much common knowledge that it takes at least 20 shells to have a community. My cousin fell asleep in a pocket, and that's why I don't like the saying everything comes out of the wash. Because sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes it does, and they're just like a completely different person. So it's actually only 2 of us now. Myself and my grandmother, Nana Connie. We like to watch 60 Minutes because Leslie Stahl is fearless. Nana, make the noise. Sometimes I find my mind wandering, thinking, what would my family think? Do you think they could be out there?
Marcello, let's forget about being afraid. Just take the adventure.
Okay, let's do it. Hi, everybody. It's Marcel. I'm recording this video because I'm looking for my family.
There's no point missing. I don't
Marcel the Shell and the search for a family reunited. Marcel, how long has it been since you've seen your family?
I couldn't tell you, but the space in my heart gets bigger and louder every day.
Dean, do you know how long?
That's 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice to know. There's so many places that they could be.
Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Whoa.
You are beautiful.
There must be so many others like me. He has got to go. Not that I don't like Arthur.
Not that.
No! Oh my God!
Arthur.
No!
Arthur.
Off!
This is a film that I tried to fit into my viewing schedule to review while it was in theaters, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make it before it left theaters. But now Marcel the Shell is available to rent or buy now on streaming platforms. Marcel the Shell is shot in a mockumentary style where we have Marcel as the main topic. Now, the film looks and at times feels like a small budget independent film, but has a lot of talent behind the shells and brings back the creators that made the film so special in the first place. And it truly appreciates the small, innocent story of Marcel. The film stars Jenny Slate as Marcel, who voiced the original Marcel in the 2010 short, who some might remember from a short run on SNL and numerous voiceover works, and Isabella Rossellini from Death Becomes Her, and Fearless, who plays Connie, Marcel's grandmother. The movie is a true definition of innocence and curiosity, and though now a feature film, it doesn't steer away from its roots of what it wants to accomplish. It keeps the stop motion modest, the characters real, and an overall feel of being humble. The special effects are true to our main character of the movie, which is small and practical. In the big sea of Hollywood special effects, this film stands above. This film doesn't get lost and stays true to its main character. It never strays from its path when it comes to knowing what it is and what it's trying to accomplish. As the film goes on, there isn't a lot that happens in this plot. There isn't an earth-shattering adventure that Marcel goes on in his first major motion picture. It's just our simple filmmaker that shoots Marcel in his natural habitat and shows his behavior on a day-to-day basis. Directed and written by original writer and director Dean Flesherkamp, with help by writer Nick Paley and Elizabeth Holm. Flesherkamp also stars as our filmmaker shooting Marcel in the film as Dean. It is another form of honesty that this creative process brings to the table, is that we have a director playing the director and the writer in the film. Marcel the Shell's curious questions, small form in a big world, a viewer might underestimate this character, but what the filmmakers do here is prove a point, that we may think he is small, but he utilizes his surroundings just like we would in the world. We feel pain just like Marcel does. No matter the size, we're all in this big world, and nobody is defined as bigger or smaller. Marcel the Shell is innocent, smart, never strays from its charm, and the cuteness doesn't give you a toothache. The use of practical stop-motion effects makes Marcel a very unique and creative film that you can tell was handled with nothing but love, creativity, and care. I'm giving Marcel the Shell with shoes on 3 stars. And now it's time to bring back our favorite young film critic, the very opinionated, the talented, the absolutely stunning, the articulate.
Okay, stop it now.
Okay, I'm done. Brooklyn, welcome back to the show.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. It's always a pleasure to spend time with the apple of my eye.
Okay, stop. Just call me your daughter.
The beautiful daughter that
oh gosh,
I have had the honor of raising. Too much?
Way too much.
Oh, all right.
Like way too much.
All right, you like attention. I just figured you wanted all my attention.
No, I don't need attention.
Okay, sassy pants. This one's kind of a unique one. This is a type of movie that I don't think we've watched together. It comes with the technique. Huh.
What about Gumby?
Well, yeah. I mean, Gumby used kind of the same technique of the stop motion. Marcel the Shell. Try saying that 3 times fast for me.
Marcel the Shell.
Do it again. Marcel the Shell, Marcel the Shell, Marcel the Shell, Marcel the blah. Yeah. So it's kind of a unique movie. This is like your first mockumentary, the stop motion. I'm dying to find out what you thought of this movie.
Well, what did you think I would give it?
I don't know. I think I know you pretty well to kind of gauge what you're going to rate. But this one, I don't know. I'd have to shoot from the hip because it's a new technique, new style, and a very unique film. I don't know. Just based on my instinct, and I was kind of watching your reactions. I can go back and forth on it. I would give 2 stars based on how you were interacting with the movie. But I don't know. You asked some good questions during the movie about the technique of it. So it's either going to be 2 stars or 3 stars.
Okay.
That's what I'm going with. So what'd you think?
Well, I thought it was a pretty good movie, and it had some good humor with it. And it's like a super cute little movie. It just all combined that. I love how they made Marcel because she's so small. It's like your thumb. And I love how they tried their hardest with the animation. It's like a clay animation.
Stop motion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it's just like a speechless movie. I have not that many words because of how great this movie was. But it's not the perfect best movie. It's close though. But
so you said something that I want to kind of talk about a little bit. You said it was funny, and I have to agree. Now, there's some moments in this movie where the movie isn't like big belly laughs, right? It's almost like a cuteness kind of funny. What I appreciate about this movie is it keeps the humor innocent, like our character Marcel and all the characters of the movie, right?
Yes.
How would you define the humor on it? Is it kind of, do you agree with me that it's innocent, or did you actually have some good belly laughs, or?
Well, I chuckled a little bit for one joke.
And what I found fascinating about this type of movie is, I said it earlier in my review, this isn't a huge Hollywood spectacle, right? There's not a huge special effects piece of it, but what really stands out, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me or not, is there's no villain in the movie. There's no real bad guy. The movie moves along and it keeps true to the character, and it keeps it lighthearted, where we want to follow and see what Marcel kind of does next. Do you think the film lacked at all for not really having a main villain?
No, not at all.
Did you find it engaging without having a villain?
Yes.
To kind of see at the end where...
Like most Disney movies.
Yeah, we'll get into the Disney piece of it in the next review. I can't wait for that one.
Oh, yeah.
So overall, you thought it was pretty good.
Yes.
With Marcel the Shell, I'm giving it 3 stars. Brooklyn, what is your verdict?
My verdict is 3.5 stars.
You always have to one-up me. I'll tell you what. The next show you're going to start, I'm going to make you do a 4-page review, and you are going to record this review. And
no,
then
I'm not.
I can relax, and I can just have a conversation about a
I'll
movie.
sneak on your computer and look.
You don't know my password.
And it's probably Brooklyn.
Crap.
I knew it.
All right, Brooklyn, you ready to review the Disney Plus original live-action remake of Pinocchio? You ready for it?
Let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 8th wonder of the world. The one and only Pinocchio!
Hello, Pops.
Jumping jeepers.
An almost real boy.
Turn around, let me get a look at you. I will be right here when you get back.
Pinocchio is running around loose without a conscience? Can you imagine the trouble he's gonna get into?
Wouldn't want that on my conscience.
Everybody who's anybody wants to be a somebody.
But I want to be real.
Why on earth would you want to be real when you can be famous?
Pinocchio should have been home by now.
He won't be a puppet anymore. That's for sure.
Pinocchio, be brave.
Truthful.
Non-selfish.
You will always be my real boy.
A lie can really change a person, Pinocchio.
Whoa, what's happening, Jiminy?
Looks like some sort of fairy magic. Kinda on the nose, if you ask me.
Pinocchio 2022 comes to streaming as a Disney Plus original movie. I would love to say I love this movie, but again, I take the chance of my nose growing and I don't need a cricket on my shoulder to tell me to do the right thing and say how ugly and awkward this film really is. Pinocchio has all the makings of success. Tom Hanks as Geppetto, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiminy Cricket, and the multi-talented legendary writer, director, and producer Robert Zemeckis, who is responsible for such films such as the Back to the Future trilogy, Polar Express, Castaway, Forrest Gump, and of course, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And now Zemeckis directed and helped write this 2022 adaptation of the disastrous Pinocchio. Now, I have read the original story of Pinocchio, and the original material is a great metaphor on the human behavior and human condition. And yes, it is a dark book, and Disney has had a formula for turning even the darkest fairy tales into a family-friendly spectacle. The 1940 Disney version of Pinocchio, though tamer than the source material, still has a a message that one can get from it. And what helps with that message is the animation that helps with that vision. The original Disney film had some nightmarish tones that tied into consequence that the animation helped portray. This version of Pinocchio is a nightmare in itself for the fact it gets so many things wrong that it misses its own message. It makes itself known that it's not there to make a movie to have a point to prove, but to make a movie with some big names to get the audience to tune into their streaming platform. It's even more disappointing that experienced filmmaker Robert Zemeckis had his hands in this film, and this is what the ending result was. Let's start with the voice cast of the characters. Joseph Gordon-Levitt does a good enough job as Jiminy Cricket. Benjamin Evan Ainsworth does a great job at adding innocence to the Pinocchio character during the first half of the film. But when Pinocchio is faced with decisions, there's no added believable sense of curiosity. Ainsworth consistently has the same tone during the entire runtime and doesn't give the audience any curiosity or even empathy towards him. Zemeckis ran the risk by keeping the same design as the original Pinocchio because we are consistently reminded of the original as we watch this version. Unfortunately, the risk did not pay off. Ainsworth adds nothing fresh to the character, and the design of Pinocchio just seems out of place and more artificial than the actual puppet. The way the real-life actors interact with Pinocchio adds even more to the awkwardness, where they either give off the vibe that they've never acted with CGI before, or that the Pinocchio was redesigned after the scenes were shot. The physical interactions between the CGI characters and the actual actors didn't feel as tight as it should have been. And it doesn't help that there's a lot of up-close shots showing some of these interactions. It's almost like the actors hesitate between the animation when they're interacting, especially with our Geppetto played by Tom Hanks, and I really want to say it's due to the fact he doesn't have a ton of experience acting alongside animated characters, to the extent of his experience is voicing animated characters. But when Hanks is on screen self-narrating himself, his delivery comes across awkward and not at all confident. This was the biggest disappointment when it comes to the film. On paper, having America's nice guy playing Geppetto is perfect. But what we got is one of Hank's worst performances. It's like when you go to Denny's and order a steak. You like the idea of steak, but when they bring it out and you see it, it doesn't seem like it was a good idea at all. When it comes to the look of the movie, the production comes across like it was a made-for-TV show from the 90s, and the camera pans reminded me of a pre-recorded live Broadway show, only with CGI. I would have expected something more out of Zemeckis. If I didn't know prior that he was directing and even helped write this film, I would have never guessed that this was his work. When it comes to the musical numbers, the film is even lazy when it comes to that. They added nothing new or fresh to the arrangements that are noticeable. This is a film that is a cut and paste type of film with subpar performances. But let's get to the point here. Will this film entertain the target audience? I think for young children, this will. Hank's elementary slow-talking performance and Ainsworth's innocence and bright clothing will appease the younger audience and be easy for the young kids to follow. But holistically, this 2022 live remake of Pinocchio is an absolute mess, with no love, no thought, or skill put into it. I'm giving Pinocchio 1.5 stars. All right, Brooklyn, I think from the look you were giving, I have a feeling this is going to be one of those movies we are just complete on each end of the spectrum here.
Well, I am kind of agree that he kind of looks like a knockoff Shrek head looking theme Pinocchio.
Wait, what?
Pinocchio looks like a knockoff Shrek figure.
He looks like the Pinocchio from Shrek, only in Disney clothing.
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit. You're visually speechless right now.
I'm trying not to laugh really hard right now.
Based on my assumption and me knowing you, you liked it.
Not really either.
What? You did too.
No,
You
you're gonna
did
be
too.
you're gonna be surprised when I gave it.
Okay, so let's get into it. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this.
Okay, well, I do agree that he kind of looks like a long-nosed Shrek head 1800s child.
Well, Pinocchio was written in the 1800s.
I know, that's why I said it.
Oh, okay. Accurate. Good.
Okay, it could have done a little better. I mean, they could have made it more kind of puppety or whatever the word is for more like puppets.
They could have made it look like a puppet.
Yes.
A wood puppet.
And not as creepy.
Yeah, and let's get into that for a second. Now, originally, when you take a puppet that can actively walk and talk, I mean, it's a fine line in a live-action film that naturally you're going to have a creepy vibe to it, right?
Especially the eyes.
And yeah, and I think what Disney was going for, and I can see what they were aiming for, was to give it that lighter look. That's why they kept the original outfit. They didn't make him look too wooden to kind of not scare kids. but he comes across too artificial. And there's a scene where he's walking away from Geppetto at one point, and his head does like a 360 spin to kind of say goodbye. And just the actual pacing and the timing of when he does it,
It's just so creepy.
it came across creepy.
His head just stayed straight at him, and then his body turned around.
It's like he turns his head around, and you're waiting for Pinocchio to just kind of spin his head around and go, "Goodbye, father. We'll see you later." I mean, that's what you're waiting for. And but that's what that reminded me of.
Sorry. It kind of no, seriously, that's what I was actually waiting for. Like, you know, in the original movie, he's just up on top of the thing. He just looking like this, like straight at the wall.
You know, we're running a podcast. Nobody can see what you're doing right now.
I know, but like, you know how he's just looks straight at the wall and with no mouth in the original movie.
Yeah.
And no eyebrows, so it looked even creepier. Just imagine if it looked like a normal wooden boy.
Yeah.
Imagine how creepy that would be. It was like normal dark wood, too. That would be extra creepy.
Yeah, and I can get their intent on it. It's a hard balance to have, and that's why I said it earlier in my review. The animation for this kind of story is a perfect mix because you can make it seem bright, but at the same time have nightmarish elements to it. Pinocchio animated works. Computer animated, it's the thing of what nightmares are made of.
Oh, seriously, I had a little nightmare about Pinocchio last night. He's just turning his head all the way around like a owl looking at me like, where are you?
Wow. I think I'm going to have nightmares now. And what I think the voice cast does is lighten that a little bit. I want to get into kind of what else you thought. I'm curious now.
Okay, so this movie, if it was not creepy, the storyline was okay. Just okay.
It's the same storyline as the 1940 Disney version.
Yeah, but still, there's some differences.
Okay.
Some.
What was different about it? Without giving any spoilers.
The fairy. I'm not going to give anything else. The fairy was different, and Jiminy Cricket looks a little different too.
Yeah. You know what? I'm part of my partial half star. Thank you for bringing it up because I didn't put that in my review, which I should have, is I was actually a fan of the fairy.
I know. She was so beautiful.
She actually did a fantastic job. She held true to the original of being this almost non-biased figure, but obviously there to grant something special. The one thing I think they lacked a little bit is giving her a little bit more speaking lines to kind of have more of a conversation with Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. Not like the original movie. It's like, well, this is everything you need to do and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but I think she did a fantastic job. She has a beautiful voice.
But also, when she goes away, it's like a high-pitched like Ariana Grande.
What do you mean?
Like, when upon a star. Like that. But even higher. It's like a high-pitched like Ariana Grande.
Yeah. So far, we're in agreement.
Yes.
Now, when I was watching you view this film, I'm a huge reaction guy, even especially with you. When I'm in the theater, I tend to look at the audience reactions. I kind of take that into consideration of seeing what the audience reacts to, because it's all about the experience of watching a film. And I've said that to you numerous times. And I do the same with you. I'll glance over at you and see what your reaction was. And it seemed like you were engaged in the movie.
Yeah.
So what did you like about the movie?
Well, I love the cat. I love the cat.
Figaro?
Yes.
Figaro was cute?
Yes. They did pretty good for a computer cat.
The CGI was decent on the characters with everything but the main puppet. I think we're in agreement with that.
Creepy
yes,
alert.
It was. Now, we have to bring him up because he's the character that we haven't talked about yet. What did you think about Tom Hanks?
Well,
because you've seen the original, correct?
Yes.
Yep. That Geppetto was likable. He was innocent. Now, how does Tom Hanks stack up to that?
Well, in the original movie, he was pretty jolly, happy, all around. But this one, he could have been a little more happier about his lines and whatnot. because he kind of seemed like.
He seemed like he wasn't having a good time at all during this movie.
Oh yeah, let's be real.
I mean, to me, that's what it is. It feels like he didn't know what to do with this non-existent character, because when they act, Pinocchio wasn't obviously there at the time, and it seemed like he was having trouble.
Yes.
Because I think, I love Tom Hanks, and you've watched a bunch of Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of your favorites is Turner and Hooch?
I mean, that's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. This one was a shame because, like I said, on paper, he would have looked good as a Geppetto, but he does not pull it off at all. Instead, it is almost cringeworthy.
Oh yeah, I was kind of when I first saw him, I was like, "What is this?"
Well, it's not so much. I think he looks the part, but when he speaks, that's where it becomes.
Yes,
he almost is borderline just as creepy as Pinocchio is.
Oh yeah,
it's when he first sees Pinocchio sing and dance, where he goes into that song. Pinocchio, Pinocchio.
Holy smokey-o, Pinocchio, Pinocchio, my dear son, made of wood.
Okay, just switch the voices. Pinocchio has his voice.
So should we put Tom Hanks's voice into Pinocchio?
That'd be so creepy. He'd be like, "Oh, Pinocchio, my name is Pinocchio.
I'll feed you beets and gnocchio and
Gemini Cricket."
Oh my gosh, that's just imagine that in your dreams.
You know what? I think that would have made this film more entertaining if instead they put Tom Hanks's voice into Pinocchio, because I think that matches the tone of him.
That would be hilarious. This is wrong.
This is going not in my direction. I thought I had you pegged this week, but now I'm dying to know, what is your rating on Pinocchio?
I'm ashamed to say this. 1.5.
What? So, hang on. I got to hear this again. So, we're on a roll the last couple of weeks. We've gotten pretty close. We now have a rating that we both...
Oh, my God.
We have a movie we agree on 100%.
I changed my mind. It's one.
No.
It's one. It's one.
Nope. You took notes. You were dedicated to this rating. I am absolutely stunned this week that we agree. You see, I'm kind of looking at you with a smile that we agree, and you won't even make eye contact with me.
Yes, I am actually.
We are in agreement, and this is unlike anything because this is a family movie made by Disney, targeted for those that love the original and targeted for kids. And I'm sitting next to a kid, and we both are giving it 1.5 stars.
Okay. If they made this into a horror movie, I think this would be 100% more creepier.
They do have multiple different Pinocchio horror movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of hard to have a creepy puppet and not make it into a horror movie at some point.
True.
Brooklyn, given how bad this movie was, this one is a horror movie that wasn't meant to be a horror movie. It is frightening this movie was this bad.
Yes, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a great movie. Behind my back.
And this has to be probably this is going to contradict itself, but this has to be the cheapest, most expensive thing I have seen on Disney Plus.
Yes. Don't let your children see this movie.
Well, you don't want to go that far. Everybody should see any movie they want and make their own judgments. But for what we're doing on the Movie Wire is we're giving our opinion and what we liked and didn't like. And you know what? This movie, I'm not going to lie, this movie was pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I gave it 0.5 star thinking that it would appease young children with the bright colors and because the colors in the entire movie, they don't really change. It always stays bright and vibrant. So I would probably say between 7 and under would probably enjoy this movie.
Probably.
All right. So Brooklyn, we are both giving Pinocchio 1.5 stars.
Yes.
And Brooklyn, I want to thank you for joining me on the show this week. Last week you were on the show. You did a fantastic job. This week you did an even better job, and you've come prepared this week. I can't wait to have you back. You want to come back?
Sure, why not?
All right. Did you get your homework done tonight?
Yes.
Or did you just watch movies all day?
I did my homework and then watched movies.
Good for you. All right. So, Brooklyn, with that said, go brush your teeth.
Okay. Bye, people.
There are no strings on me.
And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. Again, thank you all for listening, and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram and Twitter and leaving me a review. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits to show support for those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.